Okay, I'm going to show you how to replace an encoder wheel, regular wheels, as well as do a full disassembly and reassembly of a Gdx-Cart. So there's only a few things you'll need. You'll need a 3/32 hex bit, you'll want some little tweezers, and then you'll want a Phillips head screwdriver. So we'll start there. The Phillips head screwdriver will just open the battery door. Remove the battery, and then you're going to want to do things in a certain order. So we'll start here by removing this panel, 3 screws right here. Set that panel aside. Then you're going to do the 4 outer screws. We'll recover that one. Okay, when you do this last screw on this panel here, you want to make sure that you hold it down with your thumb, because there is a spring underneath this and it will burst out. So gently remove this screw and then slowly raise that panel up. As you can see, there's a tiny screw or a tiny spring right here, and then there's an additional spring right here that you'll want to very carefully remove with tweezers. And lastly, there's this bit right here. None of this will come out or come apart unless you remove those. Now you can pull this whole panel off and set that aside. First thing we'll do is we'll replace the 5th encoder wheel here. So, a couple things you want to note. First, you'll detach from the board right here, but you'll also want to pay attention to how this wire is woven through this piece right here. This keeps the wire out of the way of this wheel. When you put the new one on, you're going to want to weave it through in the same way. To remove the wheel, all you need to do is take out 2 screws right here. Here's our new wheel. First thing, this rod that slipped out of the other one just slides in through this hole here. You're going to also note which direction the wheel goes. So this pocket right here is actually going to sit right over this spring. So with this rod in there, you set it into this arm and then set it back right there, and it just sort of nests right in there. And you can put these 2 screws back in, and the wheel is where it should be. Now I like to go ahead and just plug this in, which gives it a little bit of structure while you're trying to weave it back through this piece. And this does take a little bit of doing and some work with these tweezers. And you kind of just have to get each individual wire in there. And you'll just need to very sort of carefully weave these wires through all of this maze. But once you do, you can then just tuck the wires down in, and they will no longer interfere with this wheel apparatus itself. To change the regular wheels, we'll go back to our bottom case here and turn it over. You'll see that there are 2 pins that are also spring loaded, so very carefully remove those pins. Make sure those springs don't pop out. You can remove the springs, and then the wheels come out right behind that. And set the wheels aside, put the new wheels in, springs, and then use some sort of tool to tamp down the springs while you put the pin back in. And it will take a second to get it so that that pin lines up on the other side and goes all the way through. Okay, now to put the whole thing back together. So we'll just kind of go in the same reverse order of how we dismantled it. So we'll put this back on. You will want to go ahead and do these 4 screws first, just to get it locked into place. You can go ahead and put this panel back on. Now this is definitely the hardest part. First of all, you want to pay attention to the orientation of this piece right here. You want this notch to face towards you, to come to the inside. And so you're just going to set this in right here. And you'll also see that it can spin clockwise, and then it can give you a little bit more room to get this spring in. And so you grab the longer spring. I like to use these tweezers and sort of, that's the danger, and sort of squish it down, and then you can get it to set right in there. And so it's just going to touch this back panel and touch the front of this piece. And then lastly, the small spring just sets right there on top of this little circle here. And then you'll very gently take this panel, set the hinges to the back. You'll want to lift this up off the table just a little bit, and then you can close that door. Now you'll know it works if it locks. Last thing, just put the battery and the battery panel on, and then you are done.